I know Caitlin, of course, we go way back, Midwestern. We had a lot of battles in AAU and stuff like that. We played together on Team USA. I think she's just a competitor. She wants to win. She has just intangibles of the game. She knows how to play, great IQ. But I think the biggest thing about her, she competes, and she's just a winner. She wants to win.
When you actually sit back and analyze the sheer emotional weight of this situation, you have to admit that this transition feels less like a coaching decision and more like a scripted destiny that the basketball gods handed down to us. We have spent decades watching the women's game operate on a seniority system where you wait your turn and kiss the ring, but Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers have completely shattered that archaic model just by existing. It is honestly exhilarating to watch because for the first time in history, the fans and the money are dictating the roster construction rather than the old-school politics that kept the game stagnant for so long. You have to feel a little bit of sympathy for legends like A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart because they have done absolutely everything right, and they have carried this league on their backs for years without complaint. But the brutal reality of professional sports is that gratitude does not sell sneakers, and it certainly does not drive television ratings the way a 30-foot logo 3 from Caitlin Clark does. It is a savage business, and while Wilson and Stewart are undeniably great, they are currently standing on the tracks in front of a high-speed freight train that has absolutely no intention of slowing down for anyone. If we are being completely honest with ourselves, the Diana Taurasi situation in 2024 was the catalyst that radicalized the entire fan base and set the stage for this aggressive takeover we are seeing now. By clinging to that roster spot for one cycle too long, the establishment inadvertently created a martyr in Caitlin and a villain in the system, and now the pendulum is swinging back with violent force. Paige Bueckers, seeing that fallout, clearly took notes and realized that if she wanted to avoid the same fate, she had to force the issue and make herself and Caitlin an indivisible unit that could not be ignored. The genius of the Nike involvement is that it completely bypasses the traditional power structure of USA basketball, because when you control the funding, you control the culture and the roster decisions. People want to believe in the purity of the sport and the Olympic spirit, but we all know that the swoosh has been pulling the strings since the Dream Team days, and this is just the latest evolution. They invested hundreds of millions of dollars into the Caitlin and Paige era, and they are not going to let a committee of coaches mess up their return on investment with discussions about chemistry and seniority. Think about the actual on-court product for a second, because the idea of pairing Caitlin's transition passing with Paige's mid-range efficiency is the kind of basketball nirvana that coaches dream about their whole lives. We saw glimpses of it when they were teenagers playing for the junior national teams, but now they are fully formed assassins who have seen every defense the world can throw at them. Depriving the world of seeing that duo in their absolute prime just to protect the feelings of the veterans would be a basketball crime of the highest order, and deep down, everyone knows it. There is also a massive psychological aspect to this, because the rest of the world has been catching up to Team USA, and the gap is not as wide as it used to be in the early 2000s. European teams are disciplined and they play smart team basketball, but they have absolutely no answer for the chaotic brilliance that Caitlin and Paige bring to the hardwood. By injecting this chaotic high-variance style into the national team, we are essentially changing the terms of engagement and forcing the rest of the world to play a game they cannot possibly win. We also need to talk about the unrivaled league factor, because it is ironic that the league founded by Stewart and Collier to make players money might be the very thing that exhausts the veterans before the national team duty. The grind of a 3-on-3 league is incredibly taxing on the body, and asking those vets to pivot immediately to international play is a recipe for fatigue and injury. Meanwhile, the younger generation will be fresh and hungry and ready to run the older players off the court, which just adds another layer of legitimacy to the youth movement. The media narrative has shifted so dramatically in the last 6 months that you can actually feel the desperation from the old guard trying to stay relevant in a news cycle dominated by the newcomers. Every time Caitlyn sneezes, it trends on social media, while the veterans have to win championships just to get a mention on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. That imbalance in attention creates resentment in the locker room, but it also proves exactly why the takeover is necessary for the growth of the game on a global scale. Let's not pretend that the chemistry excuse was ever a real thing, because great players figure it out, and winners want to play with winners, regardless of how many shots there are to go around. The idea that Caitlyn and Paige would clash over ball dominance is a lazy narrative invented by people who do not understand how high their basketball IQs actually are. They both want to win more than they want to score, and they both understand that feeding off each other's gravity makes the game easier for everyone else on the floor. The specific timing of March 2026 is so perfect that it makes you wonder if this whole thing was whiteboarded in a boardroom in Beaverton, Oregon 3 years ago. Using the Puerto Rico qualifiers as a soft launch allows the Federation to test drive the new Ferrari without the immense pressure of the actual Olympics hanging over their heads. If it works, they look like geniuses, and if it stumbles, they have time to adjust. But my money is on them blowing the doors off the gym from day one. You also have to look at the coaching situation, because whoever ends up patrolling the sidelines for this new era is going to have the easiest and simultaneously the most stressful job in sports history. They basically just have to roll the ball out and get out of the way. But if they try to overcoach or restrict the freedom of Caitlyn and Paige, they will be run out of town by the fans. This is a player-driven era, and the coach needs to be a facilitator of talent rather than a dictator of tactics if this experiment is going to reach its full potential. The marketing potential here is unlike anything we have ever seen in women's sports, because you have two players who appeal to completely different demographics, yet blend together perfectly. Caitlyn captures the long-range shooters and the casual fans who love the logo threes, while Paige captures the hoopheads who appreciate footwork and efficiency and swagger. Combined, they form a cultural juggernaut that can sell out arenas in Europe and Asia and South America just by showing up to shoot around.
I truly believe that the veterans know their time is up, and the silence we are hearing from their camps right now is the sound of acceptance setting in. They see the writing on the wall, and they know that fighting a public war against the two most popular athletes in the country is a losing battle that will only damage their legacies. The smartest move for them is to gracefully step aside and take on the mentor role, even if it kills them inside, because that is the only way to stay part of the program. We are witnessing the harsh cycle of life in sports, where the heroes of yesterday become the obstacles of today, and it is always painful to watch, but it is necessary for evolution. Just like Jordan had to give way to Kobe and Kobe had to give way to LeBron, we are watching the torch being ripped out of the hands of the legends and passed to the future. It feels aggressive and it feels unfair, but that is exactly what makes it so compelling to watch, because sports are not about fairness, they are about winning. The financial implications for the WNBA are also tied into this, because a dominant Team USA led by Caitlyn and Paige drives interest back to the domestic league in a way nothing else can. The league needs these two to be global icons because their stardom lifts the salary cap and the revenue sharing for every single player in the league, including the veterans being pushed out. So, in a weird, twisted way, the veterans should be rooting for this takeover because it is going to make their retirement pensions a whole lot more valuable in the long run. I get chills just thinking about that first possession, where Paige brings the ball up and Caitlyn sprints off a stagger screen and the entire defense panics and shifts. That split second of panic opens up the entire floor and creates the kind of beautiful, flowing basketball that we have been begging to see from the national team for a decade. It is going to be faster and louder and more exciting than the methodical beatdowns of the past, and that is exactly what the sport needs to go viral. The doubters who think this is too much too soon are the same people who said Caitlyn would not translate to the pros and who said Paige was too fragile to dominate. They have been wrong at every single turn, and they are going to be wrong again, because betting against generational talent is the quickest way to look foolish. These two women are not just basketball players, they are competitive psychopaths in the best possible way, and they are coming for everything. Ultimately, this is about more than just a roster or a tournament. It is about defining the identity of women's basketball for the next 10 to 15 years. We are moving away from the era of the low post dominance and into the era of space and pace and perimeter skill, and Caitlin and Paige are the avatars of that shift. You can either get on board and enjoy the show, or you can sit on the sidelines and complain about the good old days while the game passes you by. The silence from USA Basketball right now is deafening, and that tells me everything I need to know, because if this wasn't happening, they would be denying it. They are letting the rumors swirl because the rumors are building hype, and hype is exactly what they need to sell tickets and jerseys for a qualifier in Puerto Rico. They are playing the media game perfectly, and we are all falling for it, because deep down, we all desperately want this revolution to be real. So get your popcorn ready and clear your schedules for March, because we are about to witness the kind of history that people will be talking about in documentaries 20 years from now. This is the moment where the dam breaks and the old world washes away and the new empire of Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers rises from the water. It is going to be ruthless and it is going to be spectacular, and I, for one, cannot wait to see the first highlight reel.